If you have an old worn down piece of concrete that you want to make look brand new again, I just did it in a couple of days. If you want to know how we did it with a product that will never peel, keep on watching. Let's get started. A mere couple of days ago, our driveway looked like this. It's been through the ringer over the last couple of decades with some generic wear and tear that you would see on a normal concrete driveway. But if we want to bring this back to life, we need to do more than just pressure washing. So this is our driveway, our concrete driveway. And as you see, there's some really unique white spots. Now these are not bird poop or anything. It's called concrete leaching. And it's kind of a unique situation that happens with concrete, especially in moist climates like the Pacific Northwest. But this is our concrete driveway. And it's definitely in good condition, but I've seen better days. It's dirty. It needs a revamp. And we're gonna revamp this. Let's get to it. Any good concrete cleaning should start with the pressure washing, and for the pressure washer itself, I'm using a 3300 PSI pressure washer from Husqvarna. There are plenty of options out there to choose from, but personally I always find a pressure washer that has at least 2800 PSI is preferable. The first step of cleaning is to get into those small nitty-gritty areas where there's a lot of buildup of dirt, which you certainly don't want to deal with when it comes time for applying our finish. This is quite apparent at the point where our asphalt meets our concrete driveway, and there's a copious amount of dirt and debris that is spraying not only on the asphalt but also on myself. I'm also very mindful of getting into those really difficult spots to get into that you have to be very precise with, especially around the staircase or where our concrete driveway meets up with the house. With those areas accounted for, it's now time for the star of the show in terms of cleaning, and this is a surface cleaner. If you've never used one of these before with a pressure washer, this is a game changer. Now this is a surface cleaner, and basically as you turn your pressure washer on, it spins in this direction and completely cleans a very large majority of area without having to do much work. It's much more efficient and it's less dirty because the majority of your moisture is all consolidated within this space. It's not spraying everywhere. As you can see, I'm already pretty wet, and that's because I was using the normal head to this pressure washer. But with this, things stay a lot drier for the most part. It truly is quite impressive to see this thing in action and to know that it really does accomplish the same exact thing that we were doing with a small sprayer but on a grander scale. The device that's on the inside is spinning in a dramatic fashion, which means that you're able to accomplish a large swath of cleaning in a much shorter amount of time if you're just using the nozzle. I generally suggest trying to overlap your spraying area by a couple of inches every single time, but also know I generally suggest cleaning the driveway in multiple directions. That means that after you do it in one direction, go back around and do it the opposite direction in order to guarantee we remove as much of the dirt and grime as possible before we get to application. I do take a final pass with the spray nozzle in order to get any of the looser debris that might have been left over, and that way our concrete surface is as clean as possible prior to application of our finish. And here we are the very next day. And man oh man, I cannot believe all those spots went away. Everything looks really, really good for a pressure washing, but it still doesn't look brand new. It looks nice. There's definitely some color discoloration along these edges, as well as the back over there, as you can see, because it gets less weather. But we want this entire thing to look new again, so that's where like new concrete comes into play. Now this guy is the star of our show today because we are going to be applying this over the entire surface of our driveway to make it brand new again. This is like new concrete mix. Now it comes with everything that you see right here, even an oil stain. So if you have oil stains on a driveway, luckily we don't in this application, but if you do, it also has something to remove them properly. There's an A and B part and even a product you apply over the top of it, and that will be rest assured that we have a beautiful driveway for as long as possible. So first things first, we need to make sure that we wrap this entire driveway area, make sure we protect the house along with any areas around the driveway to make sure that we don't have any overspray. So let's get to that, and then we'll get to mixing. Keep in mind that this is the perfect moment to do any concrete repairs. So if there are any cracks that you might need to fill in, or any sharp gouges that may have occurred during normal wear and tear, this is a perfect time to fill or smooth out those areas, because after this, like new concrete, finish can go right over the top of it and it'll be more seamless in the end. After a quick blow off with my leaf blower, it's time to tape off the surrounding area. Now, I certainly don't think you have to provide this level of protection that I do here, but it will provide you the best overall look and guarantee that the finish is not going to go anywhere but the driveway. I'm performing this work for a neighbor of mine, which means that I want to make sure that they are as happy as possible with the end result. Now, we do also want to make sure and note that we look at the weather report prior to applying this product. We certainly don't want to apply this product and do this whole process if we see rain in the near future. So try and get this done in a timely manner, but also think ahead and look at the forecast for at least 2 to 3 days ahead of schedule. Protection isn't just for flat terrain, it is also for vertical terrain like a retaining wall and the house itself. Now, the retaining wall is getting a protection layer of visqueen, and this really doesn't mean that the other areas couldn't use visqueen as well. They could just had a little extra visqueen on hand, and that's where I used it in this application. If there are any grates or any other areas where you do not want the finish on as well, you certainly do want to cover those with some painter's tape. This was a very simple, straightforward grate to cover up, but if there was a larger grate, I could use visqueen and tape as well. We didn't have much areas against the house that we had to worry about, but there was this nice veneered stone that I certainly didn't want any finish to be applied to, so that was quickly protected, and we can move on to the driveway. Now, there is obviously a driveway transition between the concrete exteriorly versus interiorly, and we are not applying this product to the interior portion of the garage, and therefore covering that area is also vitally important. With our house and surrounding areas fully protected, we are now finally ready to get to mixing our like new concrete mix. The first step is to take your Part A liquid concrete adhesive and dump that into the same 5-gallon bucket that came with the kit. Then fill up Part A not once, but twice, and dump that water into the same existing bucket. With that accounted for, we can grab Part B and start dumping that solution into our 5-gallon bucket mix. Now, you surely will want to have a paddle mixer on hand, but even before you dump it in, start the paddle mixing process, because you don't want one massive large clump of this concrete solution into your wet, because we certainly know what type of clumps happen in that type of circumstances. In order to avoid as many clumps as possible, have it going the moment you start pouring in your Part B. We consistently paddle mix our solution for at least 5 minutes, then let it sit for 20 minutes. You do want to let it sit and rest so all those particulates and all that adhesive kind of combine in one consistent solution. I come back to it after 20 minutes, give it one more final mix up, and then bring it over to our sprayer. In order to catch any potential clumps there may be, the kit does come with a paint strainer, which is inserted into our sprayer, and that way when I pour our solution into our sprayer, any of those potential clumps will be grabbed in the grasp of our strainer. I fill it up approximately 2/3 full, remove our strainer, insert our pump into the tank, tighten it down properly, and start pumping away. Now, there are plenty of sprayers out there, just make sure you have a clean one on hand with no prior solutions already in it, and then give it a little spray test. I try and give an even and consistent bead of spray that's heavy but not too heavy. And as you can see, it was a little messy at first. I was trying out a couple different nozzles since this is the first time I've ever used the product, and therefore the first application was slightly messy and a little bit inconsistent in terms of how it was coming out of the sprayer. But that is also the beautiful thing about this product, is that even if you make a mess, it's okay. We're going to roll it out in a consistent fashion, and therefore all those larger areas that might be glumming up is going to be more consistent, especially since we're going to be applying multiple coats of this product. A standard paint roller can be used in this application, but I actually elect to use an epoxy roller, which doesn't have those unique fibers that may or may not fall off as you're applying the product into the concrete. As I roll out the product in my first pass, it is more of an aggressive pressing, but as I'm back rolling, I'm much lighter and I'm just trying to make sure I don't have any lap lines as I'm applying the product. I'm trying to work in consistent sections, and therefore having a section that is 10 to 12 feet long, that is approximately 2 to 3 feet deep, is the process that I've found worked the best, especially depending on the temperature that is outside. When I applied this product, it was approximately 75 degrees, and you do want to have that accounted for in your perspective, because if it's extremely hot, this product is going to dry much faster than if it was 60 or 55 degrees. Now 55 degrees is that breaking point where you don't want to apply the product if it's colder than 55 degrees, but you also don't want to apply the product if it's over 110 degrees. At that point, it's just too hot and the product will just dry instantaneously when it hits the surface, and that potentially might not provide the best finish possible. I do seemingly get better and better with the application of our product because it was much of a smoother process once I had the proper head on, which is providing more of a mist than the aggressive nature of the original spray. I'm also spraying around knee high, and I'm going in circular pattern because I do want to have a consistent application, or at least as consistent as possible. Proper PPE consists of gloves, eye protection, and a respirator when mixing and applying the product, so keep that in mind, especially during the mixing portion, because you certainly don't want to be breathing any of those dry particulates in when mixing. Now, when it's wet, it's much less likely of an issue, but if it says in the directions, I might as well use the respirator in any case. As we finish up our first layer of application, I let it dry for approximately an hour, and now that does depend on the temperature outside, so if it's 80 degrees, you could probably get away with less time than if it was 60 degrees. As you can see with our first layer, the product looks good, but it's not consistent all the way across our driveway, and that's where our second and potentially third layer of application comes into play. After the first layer of application was applied, I did notice there was a couple areas where the product was hard to get into those cracks and crevices. That's why I grabbed a paintbrush and applied the product into those areas to make sure that we had a consistent color eventually. This was most prevalent in areas where our concrete slab joints were, along with where our concrete slab met up with the driveway, and of course underneath tight spaces like our brick veneer, or even around our post, since it is round and it's much more cumbersome trying to get a roller evenly dispersing product there. With all these odds and end locations accounted for, I can make my way to our second spray layer. Just as I did with my concrete pressure washing, I'm also changing up the direction of my second pass. I want to have consistency of application, and to make sure that we have consistent pattern, I wanted to tackle the application of spraying in different directions. I also wanted to provide a quicker and more consistent solution for rolling out our material, since I went with an 18-inch roller versus our 12. The rolling process was exactly the same, where I was going in one direction in a more aggressive fashion, and then I came back around in a second pass with a much lighter pressure so I could pick up all those lap lines potentially. At this point in time, I wanted to say a huge and special thank you to the sponsor of this week's video, Like New Concrete. Now, I saw them originally at the World of Concrete this year, and I was very impressed with the overall thought process of the product. The fact that this product literally is concrete and it binds to the existing concrete so perfectly, which means you don't have to worry about any peeling, was extremely impressive from my perspective. And the fact that one of my most popular videos on YouTube is how to seal an asphalt driveway, I figured I'd give our concrete driveway a go, but obviously know that this application process can restore basically any concrete surface, as long as that concrete surface is raw and not finished or sealed. If you're interested in learning more about this product or want to try it out for yourself, I'll make sure and provide a link in the video description below. But till then, let's see how this product looks after 2 coats. After I let it dry for an hour or 2, I came back to it, and as you can see, there are some slight deviations between one gray to the next. And this is really because of the fact that this is 20-year-old extremely porous concrete, and you might have some of those discolorations. That's also why we're going to be applying a 3rd and final coat of our like new concrete mix. Not a big deal, especially with the fact that we have 2 kits, and we can do this same day. This 3rd and final layer is applied exactly the way I did previously, but I'm also going back to the original horizontal spraying technique that I did in my first pass. Now, all 3 layers can be applied the same day because all we're having to do is applying the same exact product multiple times, which means I can start removing all of our protection. Now, we're still not quite done yet, but I did want to get all this protection removed prior to it being night and the temperature dropping. So I removed it, let it sit overnight, come back to it the next day, and guess what? It's time for a sealer. Now, our driveway looks amazing, great, but if you want to put a little bit of extra protection on it, the kit does come with a sealer and tire guard, which is just a perfect final step in this entire process. This one bottle covers 800 square feet, and since this is 23 by 20 feet, which is approximately 450 square feet, we have plenty to do with just this one container. So let's get it poured out and start applying. Now, this product can also be applied via sprayer, and if you're using the same sprayer, just make sure you are thoroughly, yes, thoroughly washing that sprayer prior to applying this product, because that sprayer certainly was quite dirty after I had used it all day long the day previously. Now, this product we do not dilute, so we can start spraying it immediately directly onto the surface. I try to liberally spray it, but also in a mist fashion, and since this product goes on and dries clear, it's more about trying to make sure that it has a consistent application for the entire area. However, because this is a clear product, it is slightly difficult to see where you stopped versus where you started when you go from section to section. So just try and make sure you keep that in mind and make sure you overlap the product so there's consistency in the overall look of the product, since there's a bit more of a sheen to our concrete after this product is applied. As you can see, I'm vigorously back rolling our product just to make sure that there's no standing spots and the entire area has a consistent application. Once this product is fully applied, you can generally walk on it within a matter of a couple of hours, but you certainly shouldn't be driving on it for at least 24 hours. This driveway certainly has been brought back to life, and it might not be absolutely dead nuts perfect, but it certainly looks so much better than what it did a mere couple of days ago. If you don't remember, this is what we started with, and this is what we have now. That is truly one beautiful, sexy beast of a concrete driveway makeover. Oh yeah,